From AccuWeather.com, this is AccuWeather Daily, a brief host-read article. It's weather news in a nutshell. In the wake of a deadly and destructive severe weather and tornado outbreak this past weekend, AccuWeather meteorologists are once again sounding the alarm on a new multi-day severe weather threat that will build in the central U.S. by midweek and may shift to parts of the East Coast before Friday. Like this past weekend storm, this week's storm will bring everything from blowing dust and wildfire danger to snow and blizzard conditions and severe thunderstorms. More than 1,000 reports of severe weather, mostly high winds from last weekend, including more than 90 tornadoes, are being investigated. The storms claimed the lives of at least 40 people, with dozens more injured. There are some similarities in this week's severe weather setup versus this past weekend. Like last weekend, a large storm will move out of the Rockies and onto the plains. The storm will tap into warm, moist air from the Gulf, and jet stream winds will give thunderstorms a significant boost to severe levels. However, the storm coming out, while strong, is not quite as intense as it was this past weekend. Ground-level winds will not be as ferocious over the southern plains with this storm. Moisture will be increasing, but not to the extent of the storm this past weekend. And the jet stream setup is somewhat fragmented. This could limit the scope and intensity of the severe weather. A secondary storm is also expected to form that may disrupt the uptick in severe weather and cause the threat zone to shift significantly from one day to the next. Winds with this week's storm will be strong enough to raise the risk of wildfires and dust over the southern plains. There will be a growing risk of thunderstorms packing damaging winds and hail. Storms Tuesday night will center on northern Missouri, northeastern Kansas, southeastern Nebraska, and Iowa. They could produce significant and damaging hail, torrential downpours, and strong wind gusts. The setup for tornadoes is significantly different, less favorable for swarms of tornadoes compared to this past Friday and Saturday. However, there will likely be at least a few tornadoes with a multi-day event, and the few that develop could be strong. Portions of Iowa, Illinois, Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, Missouri, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Mississippi are at risk of severe thunderstorms, including a few tornadoes on Wednesday and Wednesday night. Damaging straight-line wind gusts and hail will be the main threats from Wednesday into early morning hours of Thursday. The AccuWeather local Storm Max wind gust for Wednesday's storm is 80 miles per hour. A widespread severe weather and tornado outbreak is unlikely at this point, and because of that, AccuWeather meteorologists have not issued a high risk for this event. Now, keep in mind, isolated tornadoes can still be devastating to those affected, and for that reason, and because conditions can still escalate, all severe weather alerts should be taken seriously, and you should remain vigilant. Depending on how quickly a secondary storm forms in the southeastern states on Thursday, there may be a risk of severe thunderstorms in portions of the Carolinas, Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, Georgia, and northern Florida. The speed at which this storm forms could prevent much severe weather in the zone from the upper Ohio Valley to the eastern Great Lakes, including the western slopes of the central Appalachians. This zone was hard hit by damaging winds on Sunday. However, that same secondary storm could evolve into heavy wet snow for parts of the central Appalachians, the Mid-Atlantic, and New England area during Thursday night and into Friday. That's all for now. You can find more stories and regional forecasts at AccuWeather.com. And for your local forecast at your fingertips, download the AccuWeather app. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'll be back tomorrow with more from AccuWeather.